entered Wesley Medical Center through the emergency room doors on March 1st, 2014. I'm actually from Puyallup, Washington, just south of Seattle. I own a company called Let's Pretend Entertainment. We had traveling actors who traveled all over the country performing children's theater at fairs and festivals all over the country. I was booked with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo to perform down there. On February 27th, 2014, myself and one of my performers pulled out of my driveway in Puyallup, Washington, and headed 2,451 miles toward Houston, Texas. We drove through the first night, keeping an eye on the weather coming in, spent a night in Denver, got up the next morning, and headed on our way just east of Denver in Colorado. It had started snowing and the weather, it wasn't great. We picked up another performer, a new actor to my company, continued on our way. About an hour south of Wichita, 8 o'clock at night on I-35, the trailer that I was pulling with my 3/4 ton diesel F-250, the 16-foot trailer hit a patch of black ice and slid out sideways. I drove into it trying to bring that trailer in behind me, and unfortunately, that wasn't gonna happen. The truck and trailer ended up stuck jackknifed on the side of the highway. I quickly tried to move it, but nothing changed. I looked in the mirrors and saw the headlights of a semi coming. I knew it was going to hit us. I turned to the two young women in my truck. I said, "Get out now and run as fast as you can." They said, "Get out." I said, "Now, run." Well, like a captain with her ship, I was the last one out of the truck. We were hit by two semis and an SUV. My body was physically hit outside the vehicle by a semi truck that threw me 30 yards down the highway. I was impaled on the cable guardrail that runs down the center of the grassy median on the highway. My body was shattered and bleeding to death in 5-degree weather. Because of the weather, they couldn't get a helicopter in. An ambulance had to bring me 65 miles here to Wesley Medical Center into the emergency room trauma bay. There was blood pouring out of my left side. My pelvis was crushed, shattered. I had a lacerated kidney, punctured diaphragm, broken ribs, collapsed lung, broken left leg, shattered left hand, a head injury, and they rushed me as fast as possible from the trauma bay to my first surgery in the operating room. Susan Christensen, the charge nurse in the SICU, who was on duty that night and who was in the surgery, called my husband very kindly but very candidly and told him that I had probably a less than 5% chance of living. My family was frantically trying to get my husband on a flight to Wichita. He arrived a day later. He was immediately greeted by trauma staff who talked to him about my condition. No one expected me to live, but they were kind. They didn't give him false hope. I received 15 units of blood in the first 6 hours. My entire pelvis was crushed. Day 3 here, Dr. Brewer was rebuilding my pelvis out of metal and pieces of bone that he had to put together like a puzzle. I had a head injury, swelling on the brain, failed kidneys. They had a hard time just keeping my heart beating. The staff in the SICU and the entire trauma staff fought for my life day after day after day. They would come into the room and have conversations, and my husband and my mother would ask the nurses about them and how they're doing. I think that made a huge impression on the nurses. That much caring, that much love, and it enabled them to provide better care not only to me, but to all of the other patients on the ward. I spent 7 weeks here in the SICU with doctors and nurses and Teresa German, the patient advocate, providing for us. One of the doctors even brought soup to my husband one night. Dr. Hunt. There's so much kindness. And that's why my family is forever indebted and grateful to Wesley Medical Center for saving my life. Altogether, I have been treated in 8 hospitals in 4 states in the last 2 years. But Wesley Medical Center, for us, stands out as exemplary because under the most extreme, stressful, difficult circumstances, everyone here treated us with kindness, with respect. While I was in the ICU, I kept babbling about my 5 rules. And Susan, the charge nurse, she actually thought that maybe that was a little part of my ICU psychosis. But I ran my company on what I call living 5 rules. It's what enabled my company to grow, and it's what enabled my staff to continue to operate my company even while I was in the hospital. They filled every one of our contracts. Rule number 1 is it's not about you. If you can't get rule 1, the other 4 don't matter. Rule number 2, you have to actually care. No pretending allowed. People can always tell the difference between real caring and faking it. Rule number 3, ask more, tell less. The greatest care that we received at every institution that we went to has been by the nurses and the doctors who ask more, tell less. Rule number 4, do the hard thing. This might mean spending extra time when you have it with a patient. This might mean bringing soup to a family member who really needs a cup of hot soup. Doing the hard thing is almost always the right thing. And the last rule, play the long game. We're not looking for quick fixes. And the trauma center at Wesley Medical Center most definitely played the long game with me. Had they only looked at me as someone who wasn't going to make it, who was for sure going to die, then I wouldn't be sitting here. But they played the long game. They kept a long vision. People with long vision make great changes in the world. I have relationships here. It's not just that people fixed me and sent me home. They took care of me, and I could feel the love. That's why we still have relationships. Dr. Hunt has stayed in contact with me by text messaging. She doesn't do Facebook, but by text messaging. And I don't know if she really wants me telling this, but I'm just gonna tell it. She even made me a quilt and mailed it to me. So I wrap up in that love every night. Nobody else is allowed to wrap up in my quilt, it's mine. That really fundamentally human connection for me isn't about closure. It's about creating a bigger world with a clearer picture in it. And I am so glad that we came back to do that. And that in my family, when we talk about Wichita and we talk about Wesley, I now have all of these wonderful wonderful experiences of my visit, and I am so grateful that Wesley Medical Center had a long vision with me.